Okay, now that we've done our polynomial functions, our rational functions, we need to move on to the rest of the functions. These are called transcendental functions. Transcendental functions are just your trig functions, your exponentials, and your logarithms. So what does this say we can do? It says for sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, secant, and cosecant are 6 trig functions, as well as our exponential function, a to the x, and our logarithmic function, natural log of x. Simply plug in the x value. To evaluate the limit, simply plug in the x value. So I'll write that down. To evaluate the limit, simply plug in the x value. Again, we asked, when are we able to just plug in the x value? When is it a quote-unquote nice function? Well, every single one of these are nice functions as long as it's defined. So we need to add that in. As long as it is defined. So for instance, sine and cosine, those are defined everywhere. But if you remember the graph of the tangent of x, the graph of the tangent of x is periodic. And there are places where tangent of x is undefined. We could not plug in that x value where it's undefined because it's undefined, okay? So that's where we'd have to do some other analyzation techniques, such as looking at the graph or looking at a chart. But if it's defined, simply plug it in for all of our functions. Polynomial functions, rational functions, radical functions, any of our 6 trig functions, exponential functions, log functions. Just plug in the x value, which is really, really nice and cool for us. So let's evaluate these limits. Again, all you're doing, because these are transcendental functions, you are simply plugging in the x value. So what's the limit as x approaches 0 of tangent of x? That would be the tangent of 0. Again, please make sure you have to assume here that we are in radian mode in our calculators. So make sure you're in radian mode and plug in tangent of 0. I'm plugging that into my calculator now. I hit tangent 0, enter, and I get a value of 0. So the limit would be 0. Again, please put that in the proper blank. How about the limit as x approaches 0 of sine squared of x? Well, remember this would be the same thing as the sine of x quantity squared. That's what they really mean there. So this would be the sine of 0 squared. So go ahead and put in the sine of 0 into your calculator and then square that, and I'm still getting a value of 0 when I square it. Okay? Move on to the next one. It says the limit as x approaches -1 of x raised to the e to the x. Okay? So what do we do there? Well, this is a product, right? It's a product of x times e to the x, and we know the limit of the product is the product of the limits. So we can find the limit of both of these at a time, but the nice thing is both of these, one of them is polynomial, one of them is exponential, and for both of these functions, we can simply plug in the x value. Sorry, the number I'm plugging in is a -1. So e to the -1 is 1 over e. So this would be -1 over e. Remember, e to the -1 is a 1 over e. So this answer right here would be -1 over e. Let's look at part D here. Part D says the limit as x approaches e of the natural log of x cubed. So this would be the same thing as the natural log of e cubed. Well, I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, you could go ahead and put that into your calculator directly as it is, or you could use some of the logarithmic properties to help you on this one. I'm going to do the e cubed, so I'm hitting natural log, then I hit second ln to get that e to the power of, and I put a 3 in there. I'm going to go ahead and close that off and hit enter, and we get a value of 3. If you remember your log properties, by the way, we could have taken that 3 down in front, and I know the natural log of e is 1, so I would have had 3 times 1, which would give me 3 as well. So not sure how you would have seen that one, but you should be able to get the answer anyway.